Good morning. The Transportation Committee for Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 is now in session. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Boyd, Campbell, Grills, Halford, Hicks, Hurt, Kiesling, Marsh, McKenzie, Potts, Powers, Rudd, Russell, Thompson, Todd, Towns, Vital, Weaver, Whitson, Vice Chairman Hall.
Here.
Chairman Howell.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And just personal note, I'd like to say I'm impressed that we have a quorum every Tuesday morning since we moved the time. I know it's difficult, but I'm so impressed with your dedication to transportation. It's just incredible. We've not had to struggle one morning. It's great. Any personal orders, announcements from committee members? Seeing none, without objection, we'll go to the calendar. Item number 1 on the calendar is House Bill 1544. There's still some discussion about that, and this is the third calendar, so without objection, we will roll that to the special calendar of the final calendar. Special calendar of the final calendar. They're both special. Two special calendars. Item number 2, there is some discussion about an amendment on that one, and that will be rolled 1 week without objection. Which brings us to the end of the calendar, but we're not done. We have some really special folks with us today, and I think the members of this committee is going to be pleased to see what they have to tell us. We have with us the Department of Safety and Homeland Security, and they're going to present a presentation about, I believe, about the CDLs and some licensing and things like that, and we're glad to have Colonel Perry with us, and also Elizabeth Stroker. I think everyone knows Elizabeth, who's on this committee, and Michael is here, and also Paula Shaw-Daniel, the Assistant Commissioner. So we're going to invite you to come forward and let us see what you have to say.
Oh, yeah, well, you're... Elizabeth Stroker, Legislative Director for the Department of Safety. We have our expert, Michael Hogan, back there in case we need some history on things, so we'll pull him up. But you all know him very well, and I'll let them introduce themselves. But Assistant Commissioner Shaw is going to head us off here with an update on Real ID and driver services.
Okay, can you hear me? I might
Yes.
get the microphones on. Good morning. I'm Assistant Commissioner Paula Shaw-Daniel over the Driver Services Division. I have with me today, as Elizabeth mentioned, Director Michael Hogan, who's over the Issuance Division, and basically my right hand. He's been around for a long time and has a lot of information, and I know that he's worked with you guys for years. So I wanted to recognize Director Hogan. You'll always see him in the back. Whatever you have him doing, he's always working on 2 other things at the same time. So we're very fortunate to have him on our team. I would like to thank you, Chairman and Committee, for this opportunity to update you on the activities of the Driver Services Division throughout the last year. The division manages the records of just over 5 million valid licenses and a total database of nearly 7 million records. In the fiscal year 2020-21 budget, the department was appropriated 80 driver services examiner positions. The majority of the positions were assigned to the metropolitan areas and or the surrounding counties. The impact was felt immediately on backlogs and long lines, and a reduction in wait times at the top 10 centers was felt immediately. And I would like to thank this body for the support that they gave us in making that possible and the many things that I'm about to mention that have been accomplished over the last 2 to 3 years. The department expanded its partnerships with the county clerks and local governments in counties surrounding the metropolitan areas to give the citizens more locations to conduct business. We also installed a dashboard on the department's webpage that displays the wait times for all driver services centers, giving the public options for visiting centers to conduct their business. The department implemented an appointment system to manage customer traffic and customer expectations. In 2021, the department rolled out the Queue Anywhere queuing, allowing the public to place themselves in line using their phone without entering the service centers. This was extremely beneficial and timely considering that we were dealing with a pandemic. So it allowed individuals that opportunity to wait in their cars and feel more comfortable pending the service. The department implemented an interview-style application for existing customers. This was a change in process and created efficiencies within the division, saving time and allowing us to provide service to more customers. This new process reduced the application processing time and reduced the need for paper applications. We increased the deployment of our mobile units to various locations in the metropolitan areas to provide additional locations for the public to be served. We also use the mobile units to assist those individuals impacted by natural disaster like the floods in Waverly and the tornadoes that have ravaged the state over the past few years. We have found that taking the mobile units to the individuals at the time that they're experiencing the disaster is extremely beneficial to them in that it allows us to be able to provide the service that they need without them having to travel when they're experiencing a natural disaster. The last thing they need to do is to try to find a driver services center to be able to get that valid credential or document that they need to be able to file their insurance or process any other claims that they may have. So it's really rewarding for us when we have that we've been able to provide that service to the citizens. The department purchased additional kiosks for the customers to use to reduce processing times at the centers. We expanded our online services to allow the public to conduct business without visiting a driver services center. Online transactions were expanded to 26 total services to allow the public the convenience of conducting businesses from their home without visiting a center. Use of online services also helps reduce customer traffic in the centers. The department actively promotes the use of the online services through various social media platforms, internal marketing strategies, word of mouth, and education to the public. The improvement in efficiencies that I have mentioned have allowed the department to reduce its average wait time significantly over the past 3 years to historic lows and has reduced customer traffic. In 2019, the average wait time for the state was right at 38 minutes. And in some areas, especially the metropolitan areas, it was much, much higher. In 2021, our average wait time is 19 minutes and 5 seconds to date. So, and this is something we, with the implementation of the queuing system and the appointment system, we also implemented a tracking system, and we watch it by center, by date, by time. So if we have one that maybe the numbers fluctuate a little bit, we're immediately drilling down in that to see what the problem is. Do we have a staffing issue? Do we, what is exactly the problem? Is there something going on? Sometimes there'll be, it's not uncommon for us to have building maintenance problems, but we want to know what that answer is immediately behind that if there's a delay cause. So that availability of that data that the center has, that the system has provided to us has allowed us to do much more timely management and to adjust that. The other thing is with the appointment system that we have the ability to regulate the flow of traffic where we did not have that before. You would have individuals, high volume, serving a large volume of customers. Everybody would show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they were frustrated because some of them had to wait a long time. And with the access to the appointment system, this allows us to stage the flow of the traffic throughout the day. And we do still serve the walk-in customers as well. In reference to Real ID, which was a topic that was high on the agenda a couple of years ago, the Federal Department of Homeland Security extended the implementation of the date of the Real ID Act to May 3rd, 2023. Tennessee is a Real ID elective state, meaning that citizens have the option of obtaining a Real ID compliant credential or to continue to use the legacy credential. A Real ID is only needed when used for the purposes of the Real ID Act. The legacy license will continue to be valid for driving purposes. As of January 1, the state had issued 1.8 million Real IDs. The department averages issuing 730,000 Real IDs annually. At the current issuance rate, the department estimates it will issue 2.5 to 2.7 million Real ID licenses before the Real ID deadline of May 3rd, 2023. to assist the public with complying with Real ID requirements and to assist to address wait time and population growth demands. The department implemented the new Real ID services in January 2021 that allows citizens to upload their documents to prepare for a visit to the center to ensure that the documents were correct before they actually arrived at the center, reducing the number of trips that they were making as well. As of today, over 35,000 people have used the new service. The upload document features can also be used to reinstate documents and for medical certifications for the commercial driver's license holders. Additionally, the department opened 2 new express centers in 2020, and we're in the process of going through the procurement process to open 2 additional express centers in Middle Tennessee area. We have also partnered with our local governments and county clerks to provide additional outlets for the public to obtain services. We've made a lot of progress, but like with any organization, we still face challenges, and that's a new opportunity for us. We face challenges as if there were an opportunity and look for a way to address them. The biggest thing that we face is, though we have changed a lot of the processes that we have, is the perception that we continue to do business the same way. So there's the perception that there's still going to be a long wait when you go to the Driver's Services Center. Getting the word out about the opportunity for the availability of appointment service, or just to check your wait time online to see what the wait time is at a particular center you're going to visit. That's a challenge for us. So changing that perception is something that we work on constantly, and we work with our community groups, our social media outlets, press releases, any opportunity that we get to tell the story of what we're making available or how we've changed, we take advantage of that. We want to share with the people the technology that we've made available, the self-service options. Like I said, we have 26 transactions that are online. You can eliminate the need to go to a service center in many cases. Of course, if you've got to take a skills test or you have to bring in documents to be validated, you will still have to visit the center, but our approach has been to look at this and identify any type of transaction that you would absolutely not have to come to the center for, and try to automate that for the convenience of the customers. We've also focused a high attention to the training of our staff. We believe that better trained staff and properly resourced staff will help them to serve the customers better. In the end, it results in a happier employee and better service to the public. So we have partnered with some of our higher education institutions to help provide services, and with the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators to certify our examiners at the highest level of certification that you can achieve in the nation. The division still experiences a strain on employee recruitment and retention, very much like what's been experienced in the private sector and job market throughout the country. Key positions are impacted the most. For example, those in the commercial driver's license unit, driver's license examiners, and call center positions. There are several factors contributing to the strain, including competition with private sector, hazards of the job, retirements, just generalized turnover, pay disparity, and the private sector can offer perks that we can't. So it's hard to compete. The challenge is even greater in metropolitan areas and the surrounding areas because of the availability and access to other employment opportunities. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take a moment to thank this committee for your support. I truly mean that. It has made a lot of difference in the service that we can provide to the public, and just the general mindset and morale of the workforce. And they know that you've taken actions to help them, to help improve the services and help to make this a better workplace for them, and I genuinely appreciate your support. At this point, this concludes the prepared comments that I have, and we're available for any questions you might have at this point.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments and the presentation. Colonel Perry, do you have some comments you'd like to give to the committee?
Yes, Chairman Howell. Chairman Committee, I appreciate the opportunity to give just a little update. I'll try to be quick so y'all can hopefully ask us any questions you might have. It's been a crazy couple of years for THP and the state, and as everybody's well aware. Fatal crashes have been on the rise really since COVID started, since the pandemic. We had another terrible year last year in the state. Overall crashes didn't go up a lot, fatals did. I think everybody's seen it. If you've drove on the interstate, you've seen everybody flying around you, flying past you, and really our solution is more troopers, more law enforcement present and visible. I think everybody's aware that probably troopers do more today than they've ever done. We're pulled in a lot of different directions. That being said, we're finally getting back to work a little bit. We have been over the last 6 or 8 months, getting troopers back, certainly visible, but in contact with the public, trying to, in an effort to protect them as well. We tried to be visible, but reduce some of our interaction with the public. That being said, we had a sharp rise in distracted driving citations. Overall traffic stops were way up in 2021 from 20. Really, the distracted driving due in part to this certainly committee and the legislative body in general for giving us the hands-free law that's allowed us to really crack down. And I can say most crashes have gone up. The one crash statistic that went down this past year was the distracted driving fatal crashes, which is, I think a testament to you all and the law, and then obviously the work of the troopers. We are trying to fight against what state government has done for a long time when it comes to hiring. I'm jumping now to our hiring and issue. We hire one class a year. It's really hard to keep our numbers. I think every business is learning this. Certainly every other state agency, when somebody leaves, quits, retires, or has to be fired, they immediately replace that person. Well, THP, we hire historically once a year, and it's hard to keep our numbers. So we are pushing to change that. We started school 2 weeks ago. We've hired some out-of-state troopers from various states. There's a lot of people, y'all know this better than anybody, that want to move to Tennessee for a lot of different reasons, and we're trying to capitalize on that. So we've got about 9 troopers from other agencies with really good resumes that want to come work here. They're going to start the end of the month. We're going to speed up their training. They have what we think are the basic fundamentals. They have to do some requirements by state law and post-commission, but we're going to get them to work. We're starting another class in April of sort of a national hiring push. The governor was a part of that, helped push for that. We've got about 60 that are going to start that class, and these are all law enforcement officers. We're going to speed up their training as well and get them out on the streets, and then I'll be probably coming to y'all and asking to start another school or to do the hiring process to start another school probably in the August time frame. I think that's the key to keeping our numbers. We don't have a problem recruiting and hiring. We just don't do enough of it. It's hard in this day and age to hire once a year and fill spots. So if we can get to my goal is a quarterly hiring. I'm going to just stop there and then give you one. So we've had a rough month in January, the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Some of y'all are aware we lost 2 troopers. They weren't on duty at the time of their death, but it's a big blow to our family, certainly in East Tennessee. Trooper Sergeant Randall Massengale, he's a member of our crash reconstruction team, died, and at 49 years old, too young and a valuable member to our department. And then Vince Mullins, he's also from the little bit further East Tennessee area. He's a trooper, a longtime trooper, one of those guys that stopped a lot of cars and really tried to make a difference on the roadways of Tennessee. And he passed away due to I will say, a common illness that we all know about. So we're reeling a little bit, and it's been a tough time, but we greatly appreciate your support. Certainly this committee supports the mission of the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. And of course, our condolences. I read about the passing of the 2 troopers, and very sad to hear that, and our condolences to you and the department. Ms. Stroker, do you have any comments, or should we go straight to questions? Because you have all the answers.
Y'all go straight to questions, and I'm going to take notes or jump in as needed, but I think I talk enough in this committee. So.
Okay. Very good. We're starting a list. Representative McKenzie, you're recognized first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And To the Assistant Commissioner, wow, I learned a lot about what the DMV is doing in driver services. So, and I consider myself, I'm definitely not a social media junkie by any stretch, but I think we just need to do more to spread the word. I did not realize that you could upload the document for the True ID, and things. And I don't think I'm in a vacuum or on an island. So I just encourage you all to go, maybe more mainstream media, have an all-out blitz on this, because folks do dread going to Driver Services Center, and as you say, the scheduling or the real-time a key evaluation to where you can see, is this a good time? Is that a good time? I just think we need to do more, and maybe some of the more traditional media outlets, just to get the word out, because these are some great features that as you say, that this committee and this state has invested all sorts of resources into, and I just think more and more we need to take advantage of that. So that for your consideration, and again, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll I'll send to the chair a one-pager of all Real ID requirements, and then I'll send a list. We developed a list of everything that we do online with all of our links, and for you all to have. The chair can share it, or I can send it to everyone so y'all have that and can share it with all of your constituents as well.
If you'd like to just send it as a group to all the members, that'd be fine, Elizabeth.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Representative Todd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I too appreciate what you guys do. And to that last comment, I think if you have some kind of social media post that you can share with us that are set up for us to advertise for you, I think each of us can do that, and then we'll have folks that follow us that would do the same. And I think it might be a very inexpensive way to get the word around. You talked about the different things that you guys have done to make it easier, and that's certainly much appreciated. I know the last time I had to, I think I went to get my Gold Star deal done, and looked online, got the documents. I went only to find out I didn't have the right documents because I have a CDL. And so I immediately made a phone call, I think to Elizabeth, and I don't know, I think it was the same day that had been changed. Y'all got it updated with 2 different sets of documents are required, got it specified so folks can clearly see that. And so I appreciate that response time. That was exceptional. And to your point about the crashes, yes, every trip we make up and down the road here lately, it's unbelievable how many guardrails are crunched up and work going on to repair roadsides where vehicles have crashed, and a lot of damage there. And I know Elizabeth has heard me say this before, but I just implore you to really watch for the left lane violations. I think that contributes. From what I see in my many hours on the road, I think those left lane violations are a contributing factor. And certainly potholes are another one. We're seeing people dodge a lot of potholes right now, and it's that time of year. And when the asphalt plants crank back up, that'll start, I think, solving itself. But anyway, appreciate what you do and the sacrifices you guys and your families make. Thank you.
I'll also include our Twitter handles. We have one for Driver Services, the main department, and THP, and that's a great suggestion. So I'll include that in the email as well.
Thank you. Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for what you do. My dad was a policeman. He died natural causes 3 months before retirement. So I know you all are overworked and underpaid. And so we appreciate the department and everything you do. And you all have been a big help to us. The Gold Star, again, I'm at the county clerk office. I'm in a rural area. We lost our driving center a few years ago, but they've made it so easy to go in there and renew your license or get the Gold Star. And I did that recently, and it just it was very easy, and we appreciate your effort in doing that. One question I had, and I don't know if I missed a little bit of it, so you may have covered it already, but the current administration is bringing illegal immigrants into our state. They're flying them into Knoxville, into Chattanooga, dispersing them into them. Can you tell me what the current law is regarding, I know that there's some type of temporary license you can get for people that are here legally to drive, if they're here, if it's an ambassador, I guess, from another country, or they're here legally. But if they have a driver's license, if they have a Tennessee driver's license, I get asked all the time, or do they have to be here legally in order to get a permanent Tennessee driver's license? So that's my question, yeah.
I never know if, Chairman, if you want me to wait until you recognize me, but yes, so this body, over the past years, has made many changes to our licensing laws, and you have to show lawful status within the state to be able to issue a license. And so you have to prove either that you are born here or you are legally here through one of many means through federal immigration, and we are required to run that through Federal Save, which is their verification program. And so if somebody does not come back to us through that federal program as verified and here legally, we do not issue that credential. And the credential is also issued only for the length of time that the person is authorized to stay within the country.
Okay.
That's one of the many things that we do at Driver Services that people don't realize. We do a lot of things, whether it be the SAVE backgrounds. These are things that take considerable time. And the federal government was experiencing a backlog on some of the SAVE records. So I know some of you all have probably had calls from people saying, well, I'm in the country legally, and I can't get my credential, and it's because they have not been able to get that SAVE record, and we're obligated to check that SAVE record, and if it doesn't come back valid, we can't issue it. But that's just another step in our process that when people think about driver services, they think about going to take their skills test, and I get a driver's license and all is good. But we do many, many things other than just the skills portion of the test.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good information. Chairman Halford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned a while ago distracted driving. Has the hands-free device thing, has that been a good, successful tool to help reduce that distracted driving?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. The law has been fantastic for us. It's made it, it was a little bit vague, I think. It's made it very simple for us to stop cars. We all see it driving every day. I've seen people with their iPads on there, watching movies. We see it. It's made it very easy. I can tell you, we've issued a lot of citations for hands-free. Last year, 19,000 citations.
Wow.
In 20, we issued 10,000. So we're using it and using it effectively. And I think it showed. That's the one area of fatal crashes we had a reduction is in distracted driving crashes.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. No one else on the list. He wasn't written down. Chairman Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the department for the thorough report y'all given today. I do have two questions. If the colonel could just go over the numbers for the academy, how many you're starting with, how many y'all lost, and the second one is the department looking at bus drivers and to getting more bus drivers through the system, getting their license.
Thank you, Chairman Russell. Yes, sir. We started this cadet class so what we're doing in our cadet schools, we're running sort of consecutive schools. We do a mass hiring of, in this particular case, we did a mass hiring of, I think, 65, and 18 of those were lateral. They were police officers in the state of Tennessee, so we run them through a little bit different training. It's a shorter time period, trying to get them out on the road quicker. And then we had 45 in the 18 and 45, that's the numbers we had. Sorry, my math is a little off. We are down to 27 in the full class and 17. So the good news for us is the lateral. The people who are already police officers are staying. We've had one leave. The other class, we are having a lot of people now. This is the second class in a row. We are seeing people leave at I don't want to say an alarming rate, but there are a lot of people that probably aren't suited for law enforcement. And we are working. Some of y'all probably are familiar. We're a little bit more of a paramilitary type in our training. It's not a full basic training like in the military, but we do some similar things to get people ready for very intense moments and events they might have to deal in, say, at the Capitol. So we are ramping that down, trying to get a more adult learning environment, but we are finding some of this generation is struggling to deal with the amount of sort of pressure we put on them in a cadet school. We want to let off some, we have to. We've got to grow. We're willing to take any advice and look at the way we do business and try to get better. We know to hire people in this day and age. We also want to make sure that we don't sort of throw out everything we've ever done to just get people hired. So that was a long story to tell you. We've got, 44 left in this school. We've got 9 troopers from out of state starting at the end of this month. And then we've got right at 60 lateral police officers that will start in April.
Keep up the good work.
And I'll tackle your school bus question. And we've been talking on this and meeting on this for many months. And I know it's something that everyone on this committee is aware of. And Colonel, I know that we had the graduation was rescheduled for Friday. And that'll be rescheduled, and we'll let you know as soon as that is as well. And anyone else who wants to know when the trooper graduations are. But as far as school bus drivers, we know that there's a shortage across the entire country. We're working with Speaker Marsh is going to be carrying a bill for the department that's hopefully going to alleviate some of those concerns. We're going to change who can do the testing for school bus drivers. It was inadvertently kind of restricted a couple years ago. We're going to, lower the age for people who can do regular, CDL intrastate driving. We're going to be making a lot of changes to the CDL process in general to get testing done more quickly. As Speaker Marsh brought to our attention a few weeks ago, and hopefully will be done by the end of this week or next week, we're going to drop that wait time for if you fail a knowledge test just down to the next business day, which hopefully we think our system should be ready within the next week or so.
We're shooting for the 15th.
Yeah.
We're in a system deployment on an upgrade, so making changes in there kind of delayed us more than we wanted to, but rest assured it will be done as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and so hopefully that'll quicken who can get their testing done, and really any suggestions you all have. We're trying to maybe pull people in who have maybe some experience and maybe are just interested, but there really is just a low number of people that are wanting to come into that industry. You all know there's a truck driver shortage, and so any advice you all have, we're more than happy to take into consideration.
Thank you. Speaker Pro Tem Marsh, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Elizabeth, I want to thank you and your whole team for coming together with some positive attitude of making some of these changes. And we met with the commissioner, the big commissioner.
I'm the little commissioner.
And he, talking with us, he said, we're going to fix a lot of these problems, these regulations. And he looked at Elizabeth and I said, we're going to go big and fix a lot of this. So I think we're going to make we've got a bill coming before, I guess, this committee in the House and Senate this year that's going to make a lot of small positive changes that I think will help us attract drivers and get them through the system to get their CDLs a lot quicker and put them on the road. As we saw last week with Tennessee Trucking Association, I think she said there were 60,000 truck drivers short and going to go up to 180,000. So we have got to come up with every single idea we can to get people into trucks. And I want to thank you all very much.
And
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Marsh. And again, this is, as you said, baby steps. We know that a lot of stuff needs to be fixed. And so this is just the first stab at trying to really fix a countrywide problem. So
Thank you. Members, we have another presentation waiting in the wings, but I do have one more person on the list. Representative Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be quick. Chairman Powers brought up a couple of questions that were very concerning about the illegals being put here by the federal government. Can you give a little bit of insight of how that's working? Why are we taking them? Where they're being placed? How much it's costing us? Because and this may be outside of your purview, but at the same time, he brought up a very important point, and that's very concerning to me and the people in my district.
yeah, and unfortunately, I don't have any information for you on that. We do not have any involvement with federal immigration or ICE or anything. It really is all done at the federal level. And so unfortunately, I just don't have any information for you on that.
Yes.
Can you confirm that they are sending illegals to Tennessee?
I don't have that information. I'm sorry. I don't want to confirm something and it just not be accurate. It's just not within our jurisdiction.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't mean to put you on the spot,
I
this
understand.
is a serious issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner and Colonel, and thank you, Elizabeth, for coming. Good information. Appreciate the update. Unfortunately, we are about out of time. We need give time for the second presenter. But thank you for coming, and feel free to interact with this committee. If we can do anything for you, just let us know. Thank you so much. All right, we have with us now the Tennessee Association of Air Carrier Airports. And I think you're going to find this very interesting. By the way, their presentation, members, is on your dashboard, on your iPad. If you can't see that screen, you can see it on your dashboard. And I was excited when we scheduled the airports to come and speak to us and give us an update. I know there's a lot of things happening across the state at our airports, especially the big one here in Nashville. Mr. Kruling is the president. Doug, it's good to see you. And I'll just recognize you and let you guys begin. If you wouldn't mind, just for the committee, give your names, please.
You bet. My name is Doug Krulin. I'm president of the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority and also president of the Tennessee Association of Air Carrier Airports. To my right is Lisa Langford. She's the vice president with government relations with the Nashville International Airport. And to her right is Terry Hart, the president and CEO of the Chattanooga Airport Authority. And we're all so lucky to have behind us two members of the Tennessee Aviation Association, the president, Benson Hadley, and the president and CEO of the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority, John Black. So we're all excited to be here and have the opportunity to talk a little bit about Tennessee's airports. So thank you to the committee members and Chairman Howell for the invitation today. A lot of information. We'll be very brief, so hopefully we can answer your questions. Both the Senate and the House and the executive branch have asked us over the last couple of years to do research on what are the competitor airports doing that surround Tennessee, what are the other states doing, and so on this slide you'll see a couple of important documents that we've reviewed. The first one on the top left is the actual economic impact study that the state of Tennessee has done for the 78 airports. Of the 78 airports in Tennessee, 5 of them are commercial service: Memphis, Nashville, Tri-Cities, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. The other 73 are primarily general aviation airports in the state. If you go around and look at the other documents on here, and I have all of them available, and we could provide those to committee members if you want, but what are the surrounding states doing in relationship to their airports? North Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Alabama are the ones that are pictured on this document. It's important that we understand that because the Tennessee study was a really good study and shows that the 78 airports in the state of Tennessee contribute $40 billion to the economy of Tennessee. When you look at that and you break that number down, it's $20 billion for commercial type activity, passengers moving in and out, businesses operating on the airport, and then another $20 billion of freight that's moved through the airports. When you take that big $40 billion, whether you slice it up by just commercial service or by the freight side of the house, about 95% of that $40 billion is generated by those 5 commercial service airports. That's not to discount the other 73 airports. We actually have a general aviation airport. Knoxville has a general aviation airport they manage, and so does Memphis. All of those airports are critical to the health of Tennessee. But when you look at what's going on with the other states, that's what this presentation is designed to update you on. So this is a quick history for those that are not familiar with the Transportation Equity Fund. It is a tax on jet fuel that the state levied in 1986. And that the bar chart that you see just basically shows how much of the fuel tax was collected over many years. In 2008 was the high at 56.6 million. And then, the fuel tax, nothing had changed until 2015 when they reduced the amount of fuel tax that any one entity could contribute to the state taxes. And so that has started to drop to now it has a cap of 10.5 million. It lowered this year to 8.5 million. Next year it's lowering to 5 million. So you can sort of see how the bar chart goes up and then starts sliding down, and those are decisions based on capping how much a given entity can contribute in state taxes. That's had a devastating impact on the ability of the commercial and general aviation airports to invest in the infrastructure or maintain the infrastructure or keep up with the growth of Tennessee. And so you can see at high of 56 million in '08, the average before the cap was implemented in 15 was 45 million. Since the cap was instituted in 15, the average has dropped to 25 million. We're at 18 million this year, predicted to go lower with the new restrictions. And overall, from the average alone, since that decision was made in 2015, it's estimated that on the low side that the airports have lost probably about 137 million in economic assistance, if you will, from the state to continue supporting our growth. So it's a big concern for us moving forward. And then just looked at a different way without the how much have we lost, just the trend is our biggest challenge right now. And it's difficult, and I think that the other states that surround Tennessee have recognized this, that the bottom two or bottom second and third bullet on the right side of this chart emphasize basically the federal government has been static. So there's a system called the passenger facility charge that was implemented, and in 2000 was the last time it was adjusted for inflation. So in 22 years, that hasn't changed how much the airports can collect. So that's not helping us from the federal side of the house. And then since 2009, the federal government has not invested any additional dollars in airports. It's been stuck at $3.35 billion, and that's for the entire nation. And so when the federal government is stuck and the state of Tennessee is decreasing its contribution or its investment in airports, it's a concern to us as leaders in the industry because all of our surrounding states are doing the opposite of what we're doing. The states are taking over and implementing and increasing the funding to airports. So this is the slide that just basically shows where we are today with the states that are surrounding. Florida is got a lot more airports than us. They have a fuel tax, and they generate a lot of money for their airports. Tennessee was number 2 on that list before the fuel tax was reduced and capped, and now we're down at number 5 and most likely going to fall a little bit farther if the legislature does not decide to amend the budget request going forward. But Alabama, as you can see, is at 3 million. They're going for 25 million this year. South Carolina hasn't specifically set a goal. Georgia is going for 80 to 100 million. North Carolina was at 125. They're at 157 this year in terms of how much their state is going to invest. But you can see we're all sort of about the same size. Tennessee with its 78 airports, 5 of those being commercial, were pretty equivalent to what North Carolina is in terms of size. But Mississippi and Alabama are also that same one. So our competitors have realized the federal government is not helping out airports, and in order to keep their economies going in their individual state, they're increasing funding. So why should Tennessee respond to these challenges? One, it's to maintain, competitiveness, but the first one is the Transportation Equity Fund as it is today is not providing adequate funds for us to continue supporting the economic growth in the state. Infrastructure needs to keep up with that same growth, or just ongoing maintenance at some of the smaller airports. They're having struggles being able to support that. The middle bullet there just talks about what was in that Tennessee state report that shows the industry that the airports all support. Business and leisure, economic and community development, tourism and hospitality are huge. But on the bottom, why should we respond, is we don't want to be the weak link in Tennessee continuing to grow. Already, the 78 airports generate 738 or 39 million in taxes for the state of Tennessee. We employ 138,000 people on or about our airports to support our activity, and we have a pretty huge payroll when you look at that. What's important to know is then again, out of that 739, 95% of that is generated by those 5 commercial service airports, and we'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. So the state of Tennessee, when it did its study, it looked at commercial service. It said just, and I'm talking non-freight at this point, that half of that 40 billion is generated by commercial activity that's going on at all 78 of those airports, but 95% of it are generated by the airports, the commercial airports located in each of those regions. Same thing goes if you do an analysis of the state report. Where are the jobs generated at? 95% of the jobs are created at the 5 commercial service airports. Large portion of the payroll and a large portion of the state taxes are generated by those huge economic engines that make up the TACA Association. So our recommendation is to find a new way to achieve some sort of a balancing act between our competitors that surround Tennessee. And our recommendation to Governor Lee and the staff that supports him is for $125 million in funding. This would allow us to probably restructure the formula of how that money is allocated from a 50-50 split to one that's more weights towards economic development, but it also takes care of the maintenance needs of all the general aviation airports and the commercial service airports that are out there. But I think it's time for us to consider increasing it, and it's always been a desire of the House Committee and the Senate. Do the research, find out what everybody else is doing, and let's see if we can figure out a way to go forward. In terms of our next step, in addition to the homework assignments that we've been working on for the last couple years to find out what other states are doing, we have been engaging at the executive branch level with Commissioner Ely, Ezell, and Rolfe. And 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to speak to the Senate, and we're honored that we're here talking to the House Transportation Committee at this time. We're very thankful that the Tennessee Aviation Association behind us is here with us today, because we are working on this as 2 associations together to figure out what can we do to benefit all of the airports in Tennessee. Going forward, we have asked Chairman Howell, and we would love to have committee members and any members of your staff that would like to come out and tour the airport to just see what the investments that we're doing for the state of Tennessee are doing. We would be glad to run that tour on the 14th of March, and we'll provide shuttle service to and from Cordell Hull if you will come out and see what's going on. Yep. What's that? You bet. So it's a great tour. I think you'll really appreciate it. And then these are the 5 commercial airports that TACA represents, but we're more than happy to answer any questions that you have at this time. And the last slide just has our contact information if you would like to speak to any of us directly about anything. But Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cruling. That's a very comprehensive update, and I appreciate your emphasis on the Transportation Equity Fund. That's something that, as chairman, I've been concerned about for several years, even before I became chairman of this committee. And it's something that I would urge our members of this body to educate yourself on. To me, it seems logical that if we invest in the Transportation Equity Fund, which in turn invests in our airport, and we get a $40 billion return, that's a pretty good investment. You can't get that in the stock market. Right. And for some reason, it keeps going down, and it has ever since we started capping the fuel tax, which is how the TEF is funded. So I would just urge the members to educate yourself on that, and if you feel the urge, you might want to advocate for a reversal of that direction where it's going. We do have some people on the list. Representative Thompson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Equity Fund, has it always been fully funded by the fuel tax?
Correct.
Is there no other sources of revenue that have been considered?
Since its inception, it's always been funded by the fuel tax. We have suggested, well, one, we had asked for, and hopefully in the future, some reoccurring funding so that it's not labeled. You're going to have lobbyists from cargo and airlines asking you to continue to cut the aviation fuel tax. There's many options that could be in terms of, sales tax on concessions revenue, sales tax on rental cars that operate in and out of airports. Those are options that other states have considered, and we could figure out or work with state officials to find a new way to beef up that fuel tax. But there are other options besides just fuel tax.
You recognize?
Continue. Has the fuel tax been cut basically at the request or lobbying of the state's largest employer?
That's correct. We referred to it as the FedEx bill in 2015. But I'm not naming names or anything. I have nothing against FedEx. We have 5 jets that come in and out of Nashville every day moving cargo, and so we completely understand. But when that was capped, if you recall, I think FedEx implemented a $1.5 billion improvement in their facilities at Memphis. That's the same sort of, funds that we need to make $1 billion of improvements at the Nashville airport to keep up with what the growth in Middle Tennessee. It's the same dollars that Terry would use to develop Chattanooga or Patrick and Knoxville. So yes.
Okay. Just one more.
It also
comment.
applies to the air carriers as well. With the cap coming down now to $5 million this year, you'll probably start having air carrier airlines that no longer have to go above the $5 million level.
You have a follow-up, Representative?
Yes, it would seem like there should be some other way to bring in revenue other than just a fuel tax. And I mean, if it's between losing jobs and that's the other thing, especially for my area, from Shelby.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is if we're not able to produce and build the infrastructure we need at the 78 airports in Tennessee, then they're going to go to the surrounding states because their states have the ability to continue to grow because their airports are in that business model.
I understand.
Thank you.
Probably need to have some more conversations.
Yes, sir.
about that.
Representative
Thank you.
Halford. Chairman Halford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question. I'd just like to recognize a gentleman that just came in. He's my EMA director in Gibson County, Mr. Dan Folks back there, and I believe he's Rusty Grill's constituent. So you guys make them welcome today.
Today, I believe, is EMS Day on the Hill, and so good to have those folks with us in Cordell Hall. Representative Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for all the information. You brought up, obviously, FedEx may benefit from that cap, but are there any other businesses in Tennessee that benefit from that cap?
FedEx was the predominant, purchaser of jet fuel when the tax went into 2015, and as the cap is lowered from unlimited to, I think it went down 17, 14, then 10, now it's 8.5, going to 5. The commercial service airlines that come in and out of here will. So for us, Southwest will probably not have to pay more than $5 million this year if they're even close to that. But other airlines that come in, as they want to grow in Tennessee, they're going to, be lobbying you all to eliminate the fuel tax.
Your follow-up? Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So was that enacted with the Improve Act? Did that run along beside that, or is that a different bill? Because I'm just trying to make sure I understand everything.
On the Approve, I'm not familiar with the Approve.
So it was a different issue then. Okay.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, it was a separate bill to put caps in on the aviation fuel tax.
Okay.
I believe that was passed in 15. Improve Act was
Correct.
17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Representative Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your candid presentation that helps kind of lay out what issues you have and maybe some cause and effect. One that I would certainly want to remind us of is the fact that businesses don't pay taxes. I don't care what you do to tax a business, they always pass it on to the end user every single time. So if we're looking at something, I wanted to look at the federal passenger facility charge. I always see that on my tickets, but I don't know what that is exactly. Can you explain that? And is there any flexibility of using that particular fee to replace what we're losing in fuel so that those users of the airports are actually the ones paying for in the improvements?
Yeah, the passenger facility charge is a fee that's, that the government allows us to charge to departing passengers from our commercial service airports. So that fee has been set at $4.50 since the year 2000. We have advocated that if you applied inflation to it, it should be at $8.50, $9 or whatever, but the federal government will not allow us to charge more than a maximum of $4.50. If you go the other way, that $4.50 in 2000 is worth like $2.08 today. Every dollar of that PFC that we collect on our passengers that goes out, we invest in infrastructure back in the airport. We are required by federal grant assurances. None of our airports make, so to speak, profit. We all have to reinvest. So every bit of our passenger facility charge at Nashville, it's probably the same thing with Terry and the other airports, is automatically reinvested back in. So if that was raised by the federal government, it would alleviate the stress that we're feeling with some downward size, but we don't see that changing anytime soon.
One quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
For every dollar that you would raise, let's say we had an equivalent state fee.
Correct.
For passengers, what would that be based on last year's numbers for total?
So the $4.50, it's charged on people that are departing. So we call them enplaning passengers. So as a quick example would be Nashville had, let's say 9 million passengers. We'll make it, simple. Just say the airlines keep 11 cents of the 450, so it's really $4.39. But say $4 times 9 million, we get 36 million or so dollars in passengers facility charge, and every bit of that is spent to fund additional infrastructure at the airport. And Terry would have a similar example at Chattanooga.
Thank you very much. Members, I will tell you, we have to give up this room in about 5 minutes for the Insurance Committee, so let's try to rush through. I have 4 names on the list. I hope we get through them. Chairman Rudd, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yes, you'd mentioned earlier, is there anything in the budget for the airports this year that you requested?
We had hoped to achieve the 125 in the governor's budget that was released last week. There's 3.5 million, and that 3.5 million number arose from the cap going from 8.5 to 5. So they tried to make up that delta of a decrease of 3.5, and then we hope that the governor's team is going to relook at the supplemental and add some funding in when he does adjustments to the budget later in the year.
Follow up? Go ahead.
What percentage of your overall budget for the airports is federal?
Probably less than 3%.
Okay.
Follow up?
You also have funding from, you get a percentage at airports of vendors revenue and fuel tax, landing fees, parking, car rental leases. If you have any hotels on the property, or are there any other sources of income that you have that I haven't mentioned?
Commercial airports generally receive money 3 different ways: airlines to land, park, and rent space. Concessions, those are all the food services, rental cars, ground transportation, and then the PFCs.
Thank you.
Yes. Representative Vital, you're recognized. You're on the list?
I just want to make a quick comment and appreciate the presentation, and just want to say that Terry Hart and the Chattanooga Airport has done a phenomenal job over the last few years while we had a downturn on recruiting additional maintenance facilities to complement our airport, which has provided additional jobs and revenue to the airport as a great user of both general aviation and commercial. I appreciate the work that you're doing across the state, and especially in Chattanooga and Southeast Tennessee. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Representative. Last on the list is Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of quick questions. One, that 10 million diminishing cap down to 5 million, does it plateau at 5 million, or are we keeping this?
Current legislation caps it at 5. If it could be, somebody could lower it again, but it's
But the
on
current,
the downward
okay.
trend. Yes, sir.
Is there a sunset to that, or does it take back off at some point? It's just, okay. And my second,
Go ahead.
my second question is, how does that 5 million compare with those 7 states? I don't think I saw that directly.
5 million compare with.
The 5 million cap, how does that compare with those states that you were comparing yourself to?
Most of the states are going away from a fuel tax, and their legislatures are investing reoccurring dollars out of general funds, because the theory is if you're not taxing jet fuel, you're going to have more jets coming in and out of your state. So it's more of a reoccurring push.
Thank you so much for coming. This is a very enlightening presentation. I'm sure you'll be available in the hallway if some of our members have additional questions, and they can talk to you one-on-one. Members, do I hear a motion? We are adjourned.